Hi, and thanks for watching another instructional video for CSCI 1300. In this video, I'm going to show you how to diagram and trace the values of a series of function calls on an object. So say we want to deal with an object that is a bank account. So we've declared some account object, which we're going to call bank. Let me use the right coloring here. So this is going to be a bank object, which we will call AC1 for the account. Okay? And what we're going to do is represent that with a variable inside of this. So the only variable within the account is a double, right, called the amount. So if we had other variables, we'd have to add these into the picture as well inside of the box. And we're just going to pass in a value of 0 here because we have a starting balance of 0 in the bank account from the parameterized constructor. So let's talk about that. To get this account balance of 0, we need to actually declare this. So how do we do that? Well, we have to say bank, which is the name of our array, or our class type. So this is a data type. So now instead of like double, we're using a class name as a replacement for that data type. And we're saying bank AC1 will be equal to the bank constructor call. So what this is going to do is it's going to give us this value of 0 here and create the object. So now that we've done that, let's talk about what happens if we did another operation on this. So say this is step 1, we initialize the variable through the default constructor. So step 2, say we wanted to deposit something. What we could do is we could say bank. Well, we actually don't need to specify the name of the data type because we've already declared it up here, so we can just use the variable name. Since we've already declared it, we can say AC1. And let's do a deposit, so we'll say dot deposit. And let's pass deposit some double. And in this case, let's say 255.86, which would be some double. So what's going to happen here is that the variable inside of here, right, the amount variable, will now have this value of 255.86 through this call. So we have basically just used the dot deposit on the object here, on AC1, to put that 255.86 in. And let's just put this in blue so that it's very clear. So what we are doing here, this is where that variable is coming from. Okay, so say we wanted to then do a withdrawal. Okay, so if we wanted to do a withdrawal, we've got AC1 again that we're going to represent over here as a box with our variable for the amount inside of it. And we want to do a withdrawal. So to do a withdrawal, we'd have to use the same terminology. We say this object dot, and we're going to call the withdraw function. Okay, and we're going to withdraw, let's withdraw 55.86. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to reduce by 55.86. Okay, so what that means is that the new value here in our amount inside of here is going to be the amount of 200 now, because we subtracted 5586 from this. So we took 25586 minus 5586 and set the new balance equal to 200. So that's what withdraw did. It reduced the current amount that we had from the previous step, and then that new balance is reflected inside of the object. Okay, and say we wanted to do this now where we wanted to print this information inside of the object after doing a deposit and a withdrawal. So we've got our AC1 here, and inside of it we have our variable for the amount, and that currently has the value of 200 after we did a withdrawal and a deposit. Now, in order to print the balance here, we'll have to use the variable name and then call the function to give us what is there. And remember that getBalance is a double, right? This is a double data type. So that means that it can print the information stored into balance, which is also a double data type. And so that means that if we want to do this, we can just use a cout on that line. So we can say cout AC1 dot the function call getBalance. And that will give us the contents of that variable after doing the modifications to it. And don't forget that when you are calling a function, you always want to make sure that you give it parentheses, right? So down here, we need to make sure that when we call getBalance, we make sure that we have parentheses on the call. So that's what happens inside of your variable every time that you do an operation on it, right? We can either create the variable and set it to some base value that'll really make it exist for the first time with that first aggregate piece of data, whatever we give it, or not, depending on what the constructors do. The second thing that we're going to do is modify it in some way. So maybe we mutate the information using a mutator. Well, deposit takes in some information, and what it does is it takes that information and it stores it into AC1. The withdraw is going to take in some amount to reduce the balance within AC1. So we're going to mutate it again, but in a different direction, in a negative direction. And the balance will be updated after we withdraw that amount. And lastly, if we actually want to print the balance, we can use a function such as getBalance, which will go into the object, and what it will do is it will return whatever is stored there at the current moment. So that's all for tracing the operations of your objects based on the example that we've been working on with a bank account. So that's all for now. Thanks and happy coding.